week of Grammar Time with Miss Hofstad. The last 2 weeks we've been talking about adjectives. This week we're going to switch it up a little bit and move on to verbs. But let's just do a little refresher first. What is a verb? A verb is a word that shows an action or a state of being. A lot of you guys always sing that song. A verb is a word, it's an action word. And that's exactly what it is. It's an action. So it's something you're doing or it's a state of being. Today we're going to focus mostly on state of being. We're going to look at two different kinds of verbs today. First, we're going to start out looking at the verb be and all of its different forms, and then we're going to move on to helping verbs. So, the verb be. The verb to be tells what the subject of a sentence is doing or feeling. It links the subject of the sentence to the words that describe it. So here's this example of this snail. The snail says, I am a snail. I am slow. In this case, am is the form of be. That's a little bit confusing, I know. This is a kind of a tricky concept. So let's dive a little deeper. Am, is, was, are, and were are all forms of the verb be. It just depends what your subject is, what kind of a subject you're talking about, and what tense you're using. Remember when I used to jump around the room? Right now I'm in the present tense. Yesterday I was in the past tense. Tomorrow I will be in the future tense. We have to think about that and remember that when we're using forms of the verb be. Here's some more examples. It always, like I said, depends on what your subject is and then what tense you're using. Present or past in this case. If the subject of your sentence is I, the present version is am, the past version is was. So I am teaching right now, or I was teaching yesterday. If the subject is you, the present is are and the past is were. You are watching my grammar video right now. You were watching my grammar video about adjectives last week. If the subject is he, she, or it, the present tense is and the past tense is was. He is at the store right now, or he was at the store yesterday. Then it gets a little bit tricky. For nouns like tree, dog, remember person, place, or thing, the tree is there. There aren't any leaves on it. In the fall, the tree was full of orange leaves. See, present and past. Now, if it's plural nouns, so multiple of a noun, so trees, or if it's we or they, in the present you use are, and in the past you use were. The trees are pretty, or the trees were covered in snow. I know that's a lot to digest and take in. It's going to make more sense when you open your reader's notebook and look at it. We'll just do some more examples. I hope this is making sense and helping. So let's practice. Here I've got some sentences. I've got the I, you, he. I have a singular noun and I have a plural noun. So all of the same examples from the last chart, but now they're in sentences. So the first thing you have to do when you are choosing which version of be you're going to use in your sentence is read the whole sentence and figure out what tense that sentence is in, and then that will help you choose. So I blank a great tree climber. I am a great tree climber, or I was a great tree climber. In this case, you could honestly use either one. I'm going to choose present tense and say, talk about that it is now. So I'll say, I am a great tree climber. If I wanted to use was, maybe I would add words to the sentence. Maybe I would say, when I was younger, I was a great tree climber. You were homesick on Monday, or you are homesick on Monday? Well, if you say you are homesick, you would have have to say today. That would be present. But because Monday was in the past, you'll say you were homesick on Monday. He is at my house yesterday, or he was at my house yesterday. Again, that's in the past. Yesterday was in the past, so it's was. If I wanted to use is, I would have to say, be talking about today. He is at my house today. The dog is brown, or the dog was brown. Well, dogs typically don't change colors, so we're probably talking about the present. So I'll say the dog is brown. If I was talking about a dog I saw yesterday, then I would say I saw a dog yesterday and he was brown. Now, the dogs are born last week, or the dogs were born last week. Again, there's a clue in there, last week, so that was the past. So I would say the dogs were born last week. So we've covered the verb be in all of its form. Now we're going to move on to helping verbs. What is a helping verb? Helping verbs are verbs that come before the main verb in a sentence. They help to show the time. As an example, maybe I'll say, she was reading a book. Reading is the action in that sentence. It's the main verb in that sentence. When was she reading a book? Well, I said she was reading a book. Or I could say she is reading a book. Those are the helping verbs, that is and that was. If I say she is reading a book, then you know she's doing it right now. If I say she was reading a book, then you know it already happened. So see, the helping verb helps to show what time the action took place. Here's some examples. If the subject is he, or she, or it, just like my last example, then you would say, has watched the trees grow. If it is I, you, we, or they have grown very tall. So sometimes your helping verb changes, not only based on the tense, but based on what your subject is. Here's some more examples. If your subject is he, she, and it, your helping verbs are is, was, and has. Is your present tense helping verb. Was and has are your past tense helping verbs. If the subject is you, we, or they, your helping verbs are, have, and were. Are is your present tense helping verb. Have and were are your past tense helping verbs. And finally, if your subject is I, your helping verbs are am, was, and have. Am is your present tense helping verb. Was and have are your past tense helping verbs. So let's practice. I took some sentences from your reader's notebook. It's the top half of the page, so it's not the half of the page that actually needs you to write anything in. So I just took them because I wanted to use them because I thought they were nice sentences, and I turned them into an exercise. So the first thing you need to do when you're trying to identify what helping verb to use is not only look at your subject, but identify your main verb. So when you have your subject and your main verb, and you look at them together, then you can pick your helping verb. So let's look at this. The tree was growing taller, or the tree were growing taller. Okay, so growing is my main verb, and the tree is my subject. It doesn't make sense to say the tree were growing taller. It makes sense to say the tree was growing taller. So in this case, I'm going to use was as my helping verb. If this isn't making sense, or this feels like a lot of information, that's okay. It is kind of a lot of information. And it's hard, it might be a little bit harder because you're not here at school for us to help you. So I'm just trying to give you as much information as I can. But when you do this in your reader's notebook, there is a little chart, kind of like the one on the last slide that I showed you, that you can use to check. Look at your subject, figure out where in the chart your subject is, and then it'll give you examples of what your helping verb should be. So don't get too overwhelmed. We'll just practice these sentences, and then you can go ahead and just do your best. And if you need any help, you can always get a hold of me. So let's look at the next one. It has grown many branches, or it have grown many branches. Well, grown is my main verb. It is my subject. It branches makes a lot more sense than it have grown many branches. The two friends were talking quietly, or the two friends was talking quietly. Talking is my main verb. The two friends is my subject. Talking, in this case, is in the past, so we're going to say were for our helping verb. We have tried to count the leaves, or we has tried to count the leaves. Tried is my main verb. We is my subject. It doesn't make sense to say we has tried to count the leaves, so I'm going to say we have tried to count the leaves. They are blowing in the wind, or they is blowing in the wind. Blowing is my main verb. They is my subject. I wouldn't say they is blowing in the wind. I would say they are blowing in the wind. It's happening right now, so they are blowing. And they, if it was just one thing, it, then I would say it is blowing in the wind. But since there's multiple things, it's are blowing in the wind. I am going to stop counting, or I is going to stop counting. Going is my main verb. I is my subject. I am going to stop counting. Am is my helping verb. Last example, I was excited about the falling leaves, or I were excited about the falling leaves. Excited, main verb. I, subject. Excited in this case is in excited, main verb. I, subject. I was excited about the falling leaves. Okay, boys and girls, that's all I've got. You can go ahead and do pages 30, 31, and 37 in your reader's notebook. I hope you have an awesome week, and I hope I see you soon. Miss you guys. Bye. Hey, third grade!
Why did I just record this on my phone?
I have to do it again.
Okay, good.
Because I'm gonna, maybe can I, okay, wait, let me practice. Let's try some sentences. Let's, some sentences. Let's practice. Here's some examples. You'll notice I took these sentences right out of your reader's notebook, but they're in the top half of the page.